Well, in fact, Suesha as well as Rakshita, it looks like the exit polls in the United States of America has also completely failed, because if you see the run-up to the elections, you've had almost all the legacy media largely predicting that this is going to be a neck-to-neck race. Election is unlikely to be called in for the next few days, and that's happened in the past. But it seems, if you really look at the numbers behind me, the projection really coming in, it's not neck-to-neck. Donald Trump is now President of United States of America, the 47th President of the United States of America, and it is being said a historic win. Now, over the next couple of minutes, I'm going to tell you why exactly it's been seen as the historic win. The numbers that it stacks up right now, of the 538, the halfway mark has been crossed. That's 277 to Donald Trump's Republican Party, and you have the Democrats stuck at 226. Now, why is this victory so very sweet for Donald Trump, and what has really changed? That's because, remember, some of the key states that we're really talking about, the battleground states, the swing states, or whatever else that you really call it, now that has really worked in favor of the Republicans. And that is the reason why that entire victory margin seems to be now changing. We've got a better picture right now, particularly in the states that we're talking about. Let's take a look at the East Coast first. Now, these are the battleground states. Now, why are they the battleground states? Remember, it has flipped every election. It has been with the Republicans for a considerable period of time, flipped towards the Democrats in the last election, and once again, the Republicans are now comfortably poised with these states going completely towards Donald Trump. Starting with the big state here, you have Pennsylvania with the largest number of electoral votes, that's 19, followed by Georgia and North Carolina. Remember, North Carolina this morning, as far as India time is concerned, North Carolina had clearly given a mandate to the Republicans. So one of the first to really call in, followed by Georgia. Remember, this was considered to be the tough game here. But again, once again, changing, particularly with some of those promises that have been made by Donald Trump. Followed by, you've had Arizona as well as Michigan, once again going towards the Republicans. Nevada was the last to be called in, and as far as Wisconsin is concerned, there too, remember, these are the two places which came in much later. But having secured at least these three, you are home. And that's exactly what has happened in this election, ladies and gentlemen, with about 7 swing states going for the Republicans. Now, let's tell you about what does it really look like in terms of the electoral votes. North Carolina, about 16. Now, that's gone towards Donald Trump. Let's take you through the others. Georgia, again, 16 electoral votes. Now, I'll tell you, Pennsylvania, let's just stick to this, because this, ladies and gentlemen, even in the last elections, there was a neck-to-neck fight that we saw. This election, it has gone completely towards Donald Trump. And let's also tell you that of the 19 electoral votes that you're really looking at, some places like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, were places that appeared to be a little difficult, but now clearly going towards Donald Trump. And the very fact that this was the very place where the assassination attempt actually took place. Wisconsin also 10 electoral votes. So clearly, if you put together, you are actually home with these big states in your kitty. Apart from that, of course, the Republicans have majorly held on to their stronghold, like for instance, Texas being. So this is the entire area that you're really looking at is now completely red. Now, this is the picture that is basically emerging. So it's comfortably poised, it's comfortably placed for Donald Trump, unlike what we saw previously, where there was a change by the time US actually woke up to the next very morning. So ladies, the game is very clear. 47th President of the United States of America is Donald Trump.
Oh yes, absolutely. As we'd also like to introduce our guest joining us this hour, Pathikrit Pain, who's a geopolitical expert. He's joining us from Delhi. Veena Sikri, she's a former diplomat, joining us from San Francisco. Aarti Chopra, political observer, again from San Francisco. Sampath Shivangi, Republican National Party delegate, joining us from New York. And Jia Manjari, foreign affairs expert, joining us from the United States. Veena Sikri, if I could come to you first, because we have been discussing over and over again on who would be a better bet for India. Now, right after his victory, we of course saw how Prime Minister Modi congratulated Donald Trump in that tweet, calling him his good friend. Was exactly the emotion that was put out by Donald Trump a few days ago in that tweet, where he called Narendra Modi a good friend. And just so many pictures showcasing the bonhomie and the camaraderie between the two leaders is why everyone is of the opinion that despite the ups and downs, the Indo-US relations will be on an upswing. Your opinion? Ms. Sikri, I request you to please unmute yourself, ma'am. We are unable to hear you.
Sorry, yeah, okay. So first of all, I'd like to respect the decision of the people of the United States, and we are indeed very glad that they have voted for President Donald Trump. Although it's true that anybody who had been voted to power, India would have been very happy to cooperate and collaborate. But the tone of our Prime Minister's message to President Donald Trump, I think, says it all. It says very clearly that we do consider President Donald Trump as a friend of India. We do consider that he has an excellent rapport with Prime Minister Modi, and we do indeed look forward to the next 4 years with President Donald Trump at the helm of affairs in the USA as an occasion, as a time when India and USA can further grow the bilateral relationship to further heights. And I would say that President Trump's support for India, support for the Indian diaspora, support for example, the Hindus in Bangladesh who have been subjected to the greatest atrocities beginning August of this year, this has been expressed clearly and unequivocally by President Trump at different points during his election campaign. So this in itself spoke very loud and clear about President Trump's own inclination, his own willingness, and his giving it a very high priority, the development of the relationship with India, the development of relationship through the Indian diaspora and directly, and his following of the atrocities that are being perpetrated against the Hindus in Bangladesh. He also spoke about the Hindu phobia among the left liberals in American academia. So these are very special points that India has been concerned about in many recent years. And to have President Donald Trump, even when he was doing the campaigning, to speak about this point really does say a lot about his concern and interest in the issues that are of importance to India. And it does augur well for the bilateral relationship. I think that in the last 4 years of the Democratic presidency, the relationship has progressed. There have been initiatives like the ICET, the Initiative for Critical Emerging Technologies, and many others. But there have also been a lot of issues that raised question marks, issues whether it was what happened in Bangladesh, whether it was, what was happening in the support that the American government was giving to the Canadian government in the allegations that they were making against India. And, there were a lot of issues on which questions were arising, and we were wondering which are the deep areas of the American democratic government that were, engineering all these kind of activities, while at the same time, on the face of it, and in keeping with President Biden's own statement, there was a good and prospering relationship. Now, we hope that all these kind of issues would now no longer be at play, and we would be able to work together with President Trump on carrying forward the shared agenda on the basis of mutual trust and mutual benefit. And there is a lot of area in which we have. There is security areas. We also know President Trump's views on China. We also know President Trump's strong views on trade and immigration. So certainly, while on trade there may be some different points of view that emerge, surely we can always work together to have a outcome which will be of mutual interest and mutual benefit. So I think that all in all, we have great hope and expectations from this relationship based on the earlier 4 years when President Trump was there between 2016 and 2020, and seeing the strong strides that were made at that time, the way in which the rapport developed, the way in which the two administrations worked together, I think it's a very good augury. And the year 2025 is going to be indeed auspicious. Not only is President Trump going to be sworn in, but it is also the year when India will host the summit for the Quad countries. We were to host it this year, but this year America hosted it, and now India is going to host it next year. And so we are really looking forward to this occasion when President Trump will visit India, and there will be the Quad Summit in India. There will be very important statements at this time on maritime security, on trade, on all the issues that are of concern to the Quad countries, and it will give India a great opportunity to showcase the interests we have in Quad and to showcase India's other economic strides and economic development that we have been doing. On security issues, as I said, on defense matters, we do see a great progress ahead of us. And we do see that, for example, the GE engines that have been promised for the fighter aircraft in India, these haven't arrived, although the decision was there. But we hope that now there will be no further delays and that these GE engines will arrive on time. So there are a lot of issues like that which were held up. We do not know for what reasons under the Biden administration, but we look forward to these being solved. And I think, again, that the Indian diaspora and their role will also be greatly strengthened in the context of the Indo-US relationship, because they have played a positive role. There has been a great shift in the voting of the Indian diaspora from the Democrats to the Republicans, and this is reflected in the voting patterns in the swing states that were just enumerated. So I think here too we're going to see that President Trump will surely have a role for many members of the Indian diaspora in his administration, and we look forward to all of that.
Ambassador Sikri, we've seen that, India has, of course, maintained the bipartisan tie, but, there is expectation of more continuity on part of Washington, D.C. And Trump is known to be a very unpredictable character. He's a very unpredictable leader. In the same breath, he can praise Narendra Modi and at the same time call India, a very big abuser in terms of trade. In his first term, he has called India a tariff king, and what followed were retaliatory tariffs also from New Delhi. And, you mentioned about trade, you mentioned about defense, all these become very important under this purview. How do you see this going forward, given the fact that there has been a rearrangement of, geopolitical ties in the post-Ukraine-Russia war and also what's happening in West Asia? Do you see that Trump will have a different approach this time, or for the good or for the worse?
No, I think, Trump as a personality, as an individual, we've had the occasion of the last 4 years. Prime Minister Modi himself has had the occasion to work with President Trump and build a rapport. Yes, you're right. There are issues which he has strongly emphasized in his campaigning, and trade is one of them. And he has called, he has criticized India's tariffs. But I'm sure, as we have done in earlier administrations, Republican administrations like George Bush and others, we have been able to work out a deal. I mean, I remember when we were allowed the motorbikes to come in to be imported into India, and in exchange of that, there were the Alfonso mangoes. We went to USA. All kinds of interests are at work at all times. There are different interests at different times, and I'm sure we will be able to work things out. There's nothing that is insurmountable, because Trump understands the situation, and our leadership, Prime Minister Modi, also understands President Trump, and we look forward to his administration once he nominates his individuals in key positions. We will be able to immediately start a dialogue with them. Certainly, nothing is going to be a cakewalk. Nothing is going to be easy, because Trump is going to protect American interests first, and we too are very interested. But there are a greater number of areas of convergence of interest. I mean, you spoke about the two conflicts going on in Ukraine and in the Middle East. I mean, certainly on Ukraine, it is President Trump himself who has assured that he will bring this conflict to an end, and India too has been taking a great deal of interest in this regard, and our Prime Minister has visited Russia and has direct talks with President Putin on more than one occasion. So I think that this already gives you an indication of areas of important convergence, critical areas where there is a convergence of interest and where we will be able to work forward. So I think that we will be able to have a strong dialogue, and always in any dialogue, there has to be give and take. We have to work out the areas of interest to President Trump and to the Americans, and see what our own areas of interest are. But I think it will be a very refreshing change from many of the areas on which we were running into real difficulties with the Biden administration.
All right, ma'am, to stay on us, I'd also like to bring in Patikrit Payne joining us on the broadcast. It is one thing to make bold promises and the other to deliver on it. Now, with regards to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, where Trump has been very vocal, saying that he will finish it off in a day, literally after he resumes office, takes charge. My point to you is that Ukrainians, of course, have been watching the US elections very closely, as they were hoping that this actually transpires. Even Russia is now sending feelers of new opportunities to reset relations between Moscow and Washington. How do you see this transpire, not just in terms of interpersonal relations between Russia and US, but most importantly, the Russia-Ukraine conflict?
Okay, Sueshra, first of all, it's small correction. My surname is Pine, not Payne. But on the larger context, let me put it this way. Ukraine was not fighting the war against Russia. It was NATO which was fighting the war against Russia. Ukraine was just a pawn. There were 30-odd NATO countries which have been supplying weapons, US being the most predominant one. And the day this weapon supply stops, Ukraine will simply lose that war. Unfortunate as it is, this was not a war that should have happened. Even during Trump era, there were challenges that Russia had with Ukraine. Crimea was taken over, but you never had a full-fledged war going on, which had the potential to cross the lines and become a full-fledged European conflict. Biden administration kept on funding and fueling and arming this war, which could have been prevented. Let me tell you one thing. Within 1 or 2 months after the war started in February 2022, Zelensky was on the verge of having some kind of a negotiation with Russian government, and it was stopped. It was stopped by the West, and that is why this costly war is having a severe impact on the European economies, on America and the rest of the world, because the prices of several commodities are going up. And that is why what has often been said, that there are these elites and unelected, the tyranny of the unelected that we may call. There are military-industrial complexes which do benefit when conflicts like this happen, but there has to be a limit to that. Even when you talk about the war in the Middle East that is going on, there is very little effort which we've witnessed from the United States to stop the conflicts. You have been funding the war on one hand, and they're giving a little bit of ointment to the others. For a long period of time, the Hamas network and the leadership was sitting in Qatar, planning it out. What did Biden administration do about it? The entire Biden administration and the Five Eye Alliance was so much concerned about Niger, who was a designated terrorist in Canada, but could not inform Israel about the attack that was supposed to happen, that was about to happen on October 7 last year. So I think what I feel is this: it may or may not be easy to prevent a conflict, but the one thing is very sure: the Biden administration lacked intent to stop the conflicts. Number two, there are many other areas, and the moment the conflict ends, the price of several critical commodities will come down. The moment the price of commodities come down, many of the economies which are global south economies will start prospering. And Trump is a transactional person who understands that it is important for United States to accommodate other countries, understand other countries' concern. The biggest problem for the Biden administration was this, that they thought that they can do a control-alt-del and you can just wipe out Russia from the map of Europe. It's certainly not going to happen. Right. It did not happen. Russia today is a far more de-dollarized and resilient economy. The Americans were buying the same oil from Russia being channeled through India. So I think Trump has a better prospect in terms of reducing conflicts, improving ties than Biden administration.
Yes, Pathikrit. In fact, we're also joined by Aarti Chopra, who's a political observer, live from San Francisco. Now, Ms. Chopra, as Pathikrit was telling us about the impact on the Russia-Ukraine war and the politics behind it, how do you see this impacting Europe per se? Because it is, of course, witnessing, wars at both ends right now. If you see one side, of course, not far away is Israel and what's been happening in West Asia. And now, of course, for 2 long years, or more than 2 years, the Russia-Ukraine war. The Western European powers have been not very welcoming of Donald Trump. They must be wary. How does this really play out? And when it comes to the European leaders?
Well, thank you for this opportunity. And I'm actually down in Los Angeles. I think the world is not dumb. The world knows what's going on with the Russia-Ukraine war. And the world is also getting to understand this deep state military industrial complex. And this election with Donald Trump and the Republicans sweeping it is proof that not only Americans, but the world has their eyes on Donald Trump's ability to stop these endless wars, this endless military industrial complex. I think NATO is going to have to really answer to the new administration that will be incoming, because the world cannot sustain endless wars. We are on the brink of World War III. I mean, that's what we talk about here in America all the time. That what type of world are we leaving for our kids? And yes, this is all geopolitical, back and forth. This is about natural resources. This is about oil. This is about natural gas. This is about territory. This is about borders. And, no one knows this better than India. And America, being the most powerful democracy, while interfacing with India now as the world's largest democracy, both of these countries are going to have to work together to stop war in Europe. And NATO is going to see its days now. I think it's not going to be this endless, defense contractor moneymaker anymore. I think voters have spoken, the world has spoken, and I think Ukraine and Russia is going to be coming to an end.
Right. And, we're slowly coming to an end of this conversation, given the paucity of time. So I quickly want to go to Sampath Shivangi to get your response on behalf of all Trump supporters when that rather emotional statement that was made by Donald Trump, he said, God saved me for a reason, and I'm going to fix all that needs to be in the country. It has been quite a lot for Trump supporters, given those two failed assassination attempts. What were your thoughts at that time?
I think he has the facts with him, and they are true. And now, at his age, he's a big believer in religion and the God. I think that's a good thing to hear. I think he'll be a good friend of India. And he was. Of course, we had some difference of opinion, naturally, in two nations, big nations. Now I'm told India is going to be the fourth largest country in the world, largest economy in the world. I think that would also help in making decisions on behalf of U.S. I think U.S. is a big bulwark against China, especially in the Quad Treaty. And India is the chair now. I think President Trump can go to India, maybe have a detailed discussion about India-U.S. relations. 4 years were not bad with President Biden, but I think we have a lot of negativity, especially with Niger case and Porno case. And now within Canada, Christians have blocked Indian going into their own temple, and that is uncalled for. We need a big support from U.S. On that regard, because this has to be stopped. We can't just go forever. I think President Trump can do it. I doubt Biden would have done anything. But of course, we have to wait for 2.5 months, because he's going to take over only on January 20th. Maybe on 21st, things will change all over the world. And that's what we're looking for. The previous speaker mentioned about his commitment to what is happening in Bangladesh. I think it's a big factor. Killing of Hindus and destroying the businesses of Hindus. I think it's the next door neighbor is doing to you, who you have fed them, who they are surviving because of India. The whole Bangladesh was created by Indian soldiers and Indian citizens who helped Bangladesh. This is a very wrong attitude by Bangladeshis. I think President Trump should take a lead, and I think we should, when it comes to Quad meeting or before that, I think one word from him to Bangladesh things will change. He's not an ordinary guy. He means what he says. So that way we are looking for his leadership again, and I worked in his administration. So, I look forward to his leadership in many ways. And thank you, Republic.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And I thank all our guests right now. And, we will love to continue with the conversations as throughout the day, we will get our viewers more analysis and what to expect from this upcoming term of Donald Trump. But right now, me and Suesha will be sipping to a very, very short break. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more news from the country and across the globe. Right, viewers, it's a big day for America. And the people of the United States have chosen their leader. The verdict is out. It's Donald Trump who has swept the 2024 U.S. presidential elections, making a historic comeback after 4 years to the White House. And he has laid emphasis once again on his poll slogan, "Make America Great Again." Trump says that God has saved his life for a reason. Remember, this is, of course, he's pointing towards the 2 assassination attempts while he was campaigning. And now he has promised to make the future of the United States bigger, better, and bolder. What to expect? How does it really impact the bilateral ties between New Delhi and Washington, D.C.? And, of course, how it sends out ripples across the globe. That's what we will be discussing. Sampat Shivangi, Republican National Party delegate, live from New York. Also, Jia Manjari, foreign expert, live from the United States. I'll go across to Jia Manjari. She's joining us from the United States of America. Tell us, ma'am, what are you picking up, from people around you, whoever you've been interacting with right from the time the picture was clear that Donald Trump is back again. How are the reactions like?
Of course, it was really expected reactions because if we say about the campaign by Democratic have been not taken seriously or properly, though they have put too much of money, more than the Republicans. But I can see there were so many loopholes in that. Whereas if you see that in beginning, the pace of the election was Mr. Biden. And then after all of a sudden, once they found that he is not performing well, his dialogues are not coming properly, his body language is not supporting, and his health is not supporting, then they have changed the candidate all of a sudden. So that's what my and others' opinion also, which was quite confusing. Second thing, this dialogue which was earlier also in many of the democratic elections in other countries like India, we have heard about that democracy is endangered, constitution is endangered. So people were really pretty well aware about these kind of words that these are now becoming a slogan of against nationalist people. So Trump, of course, Trump's image from past many years are it's a very staunch nationalist because he always talk America first. So yeah, that has gone in his favor. And after that, if you remember, once this declaration came that Biden would not be the face of the election and the Kamala Harris would be the face of election. After that, Biden went to a kind of campaign, and then he took a hat from one of a stranger, citizen, and took it on his head. And that hat was mentioned Trump. So that was a clear message, actually. So what I can see is it was internal conflicts, and the loyalists of Democratic Party have not supported Kamala well. So that was the outcome. We were already expecting this kind of outcome. So that's how it is. And the freebies kind of things which Kamala has promised to U.S. citizens, I think that U.S. citizens have taken their national security seriously and bought a security seriously rather than taking those freebies. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. In fact, Mr. Sampat, I'll go across to you on the matters that connect straight to New Delhi. And, there have been issues of minorities being attacked in Bangladesh that have been raked up in the last leg of campaigning by Donald Trump. It has garnered a lot of popularity from the Hindus in America. And, of course, from New Delhi, it's a very welcome statement that has come in. We have not seen a U.S. president, before before in the past, speaking so vocally for the rights of the Hindus, for the rights of Hindu minorities in several other countries. There is this very hot topic and a very big cause of concern, that is the Khalistani elements, the Khalistani terrorists. In Canada, of course, we are witnessing this unprecedented standoff between Canada and India. How does Trump administration come in here? Will there be a crackdown? Will there be a better handling? We just saw, America, of course, has been handling it a little maturely, if you see, whenever there is any sort of bilateral issue between New Delhi and Washington, D.C. But with Trump coming back, do you see that there should be some movement for the better when it comes to such elements and the concerns regarding it?
Absolutely, you're right. And the whole Bangladesh issue started, I'm told, that intervention of United States wanting a base or some kind of land or sea land in Bangladesh. And that's what the statement came from the ex-Prime Minister Hasina. But nobody knows what is the truth. But I doubt U.S. will intervene in Bangladesh and go against India, but nothing is impossible. I don't think this is going to happen with President Biden. He has already warned Bangladesh and the leadership there that, destruction of Hindus, their properties and their existence in Bangladesh is unacceptable to the United States. I hope the new leadership has learned a lesson. If not, I think they will. There is a lot of belief in the U.S. that it was started by two ex-presidents of the United States. I don't want to name them, but they were the one who inducted the so-called Nobel laureate leader in Bangladesh. I don't think he has any experience in administration or leadership. He was just brought as a dummy. And, he has not done anything good. I think Trump will teach him a lesson with Prime Minister Modi and him together. We can resolve Bangladesh issue once for all. I don't think that's a problem. I was not sure if Kamala Harris or Biden would have done that. I think one way having President Trump as President of the United States makes a lot of headway towards India-Bangladesh relationship. So also China, the Quad, U.S. was banking on India for them to stop China's aggression or China's policy. But now India and China have spoken and things might smoothen out. But still we need Quad help because that is the only way we can stop China aggression on India.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sampath Shivangi and Ms. Jia Manjari, for joining us here on the broadcast on the U.S. election. Viewers, we have to slip into a very, very short break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more updates from the United States and news coming in as far as the country is concerned. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.